Hello. This time we're going to have a look at creating a Gantt chart using Excel. It may well be that you've got a little project you want to run and you're really not keen on using something as complicated as Microsoft Project or a similar program, and you do have access to Excel and you just want something that's relatively straightforward. Once you've set this up, then it's very easy to make little changes and get your new chart out very quickly. I'm actually doing this from a slightly different perspective. I'm going to use SystmOne as the source of my data, because I'm basically going to produce a holiday chart, but I'll have that in Excel and displayed graphically rather than just using the data. So the start point, of course, then is going to be the staff leave page within SystmOne. Make sure that all staff is selected, and then in the middle of the actual data, right click, we have table, and I want to do open as CSV. Having done that, I'll be able to go into Excel to manipulate it, but you do need to remember that the CSV file will be saved in SystmOne's temporary folder, so when you close down SystmOne, that CSV file will be deleted. If you've saved it as Excel, which would be the right thing to do, unfortunately, unless you choose a different folder to put it in, that will also be deleted. So when we do our next stage, do be a little bit careful about where you save your spreadsheet. I've now gone into Excel and my table has been output to here. First thing I want to do before I forget is I'm going to resave this as an Excel spreadsheet. I found when I've been trying to make this work while it's a CSV that the behaviour isn't necessarily what I would expect when I start dealing with the charts. So my very first job, I like to press F12 for File Save As, make it an Excel workbook, and I'll replace that previous one that I was making earlier. I am leaving it in the temp folder on this occasion, but do remember, if you want to keep it, you'll need to save it somewhere better. Okay, let's make it look a little bit more user-friendly. If I double-click just here, I don't really need this column. Don't really need this column. Double-click here and double-click here. And I don't actually want to keep the end date, but I do need to work out what the duration of the holiday is before I get rid of it. We also need to have a duration here, so if I just insert a column, I'm going to call it holiday. You'll see why later. And here's the formula. Because of the way that the date and time has been used, and I want to deal with complete days, I shall use the roundup formula. And it's the end date less the start date, and just because it needs it, a comma, close the brackets, and unfortunately it's not got the good format that I want, so I'll just do this. I'll just drop that down. Now you can see that's my durations. Right. First step, now that I've got the data laid out the way that I want it, is to put in a table. So insert table, includes headers, and then insert, and this is the trick, we're going to use a bar chart. It's the horizontal stacked bar chart, and the start point of it, it's not particularly brilliant, but if I make it a bit bigger so it's easy to see, don't really need to see all of that over there. And now I can start to sort it out. So if we right click on the chart, we do select data, then we can get rid of that end date. We don't need that. That's better. Press the OK, and now you can see I've got the holidays to the red bit. The blue bit I don't really want, so I'm going to format that. Did a right click and format data series, and it's the fill. Make that no fill, close that, just click over here to make it a bit easier to see. There we go, there's our holidays. The dates though, the bottom, not very happy with those, so if I click on that, and I can do right click and format axis. Now theoretically, to make those easier to see, when I do alignment, I should be able to select from here, rotate all text, but as you can see that's not visible down there, so we'll put it back as it was, and instead I want to type in minus 89 degrees, and then when I close that we can see it. Now looking at this, I don't really want these zeros on the end, so we'll go back in again, and this time in number I can select this format. You can see at the bottom now that looks much better. If this isn't already in place, then you type it in here, do add, and it's then available. As you can see, it lets you have different formats. There's the result. I'll do a close on that, and now that bit's looking better. It's starting to look reasonably good now. I can see the holidays on here. I've got the staff members. What I'm not still happy about is this down here at the bottom, this axis. And I don't really need it to be as far back as the 26th of May. So again, if I go back in on the format axis, then if I do the major units as 7, then as you can see each line on here represents a week, but of course it's still not looking as I'd want it to. Still don't want it to go all the way back into May, so if I'm not happy with the start date it's put in for me, if I make this fixed and I put in I'll use this date, and now you can see that looks much more reasonable. Press the close on that, and there we go. Red is for holidays. If you don't want this at all, you can just click on it and press delete to make it go away. I'm not happy about the way they've got the from on here, and unfortunately I'm not brilliant with charts in Excel, so I can't find the best way of getting rid of that. But for me what does work is the from is from here, so if I make that say an underscore, then it's not so obvious over here, and I'm happy with that. That'll do for me. I've gone with the basic options for putting the chart in place. It is possible to make it bigger and therefore more easy to see. It is possible to put it in its own page. If I do move chart, then I can do it as a separate chart, and that of course I want to print it on A4 or A3 is going to come out quite nicely. And if I just make a small change to any data in here, so if I change this to January, so having put in that little bit of change of the day, so you can see that bottom entry now is in January, whereas a short while ago it was shorter and a bit earlier. So it's looking, I could use this. One small detail outstanding is that the order of the entries isn't terribly helpful. The top 3 entries, for instance, are for one staff member, and the first of the holidays is actually shown as the last entry for those. So this area up here. So what I'm going to do, if I go back to the data, I can actually sort the data into a more useful order. So while the data is highlighted as part of a table, if I go to sort, I'll do sort by staff first and add that. And then if you remember the start date, I decided to call that an underscore earlier on, so that's what I've got there. Then when I press the OK, this order's changed. I'm back in the chart. Earliest holidays first, last holidays last. So that now I think is pretty much where I want it. If I had to do that every time I wanted to set up a new holiday chart, I don't think I'd really bother. So what we need to do is find out how we can just tweak that whenever we need to do a new list. So back in SystmOne now, there's been some extra leave added, and I want to add that to my spreadsheet. So the first thing to do, right click in the middle again, do table, do open as CSV, and then we'll go into that so we can get the information out of it. So here we are in our CSV file in Excel that's just been produced from the new holiday list in SystmOne. I've still got open a window for the table I saved, and let's see now if we can just take the information that we need and put it where it needs to go. So first things first, I'm going to grab those staff names. I'm going to hold down Control, I'm going to click and drag on the from. I've got those 2 columns now. Control C to copy, that's what works for me. And let's flip across to our other table and see if we can paste those in. Success! Need still to sort out these durations, and we need to get these end dates, so back we go. So let's just get rid of those, that's better. So copy that, flip over again, paste that in, and you can see I've got all my numbers there nicely sorted. I will actually, speaking of sorting, make sure we have it by staff and then by the underscore, so that's sorted in the right order. And the final thing, I need to find the chart. Just a quick reminder, that goes up to row 22. Find the chart, we do select data, just make sure that that has actually gone to row 22. If it didn't adjust automatically, then you could fix that here, but I was quite pleasantly surprised then it was intelligent enough to work out what I was trying to do. Obviously if I lost rows, perhaps I might need to reduce it. Won't make any changes to that then. So there we are with our final, very quickly done chart that time, and you can see that there's some new entries that weren't there before, so it's all looking good. One thing that you'll need to remember if you've had to set the start date the way that we had to in this example is that if you want to change the start date, you're going to have to go into that axis and fix it. So I right click down here, format axis. Let's change that to the Excel way of dealing with dates, but if I want to change it, make that a week later. I did have it the 14th. I've now moved that on by a week just by typing the date in. That's it done. And that is my Gantt chart adapted to use as a holiday chart.